All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rachakodash. Want to give double honors to our apostles and elder bishops at Great Millstone and the elder high priest who taught them as well. All right, peace and blessings, shalom to the Most High, as hopefully elect across the four winds of the earth. And this is the brother Yagadal. I'm going to warn back with another lesson. All right, and I'm going to start this lesson out with Daniel, the second chapter, starting at the 42nd verse. Okay, because we know that we have an everlasting kingdom. All right, Salakia 41. All right, we know that we have an everlasting kingdom. All right, that awaits us, that was promised us by the Heavenly Father, so it's inevitable. Okay, His word will not go out void, it shall return unto Him. All right, as He pleases. Okay, so He has a chosen people that He left an everlasting kingdom to. All right, which is not established as of now. All right, we're in the last kingdom that will rule before the nation of Israel is lifted up. All right, through the deliverance of the elect. All right, the second covenant being established. Okay, and Yahweh Shai establishing righteousness on the earth. All right, through starting with the government body. All right, of the elect, 144,000 on down, being those judges that are set to establish the order of the kingdom of heaven. Okay, but before that has to happen, the last kingdom has to be destroyed. Okay, and that's where we're at in prophecy right now. All right, we're at the end of the statue. Okay, all right, the feet and the toes. Okay, so this is Daniel chapter 2 and verse 41. It says, "And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided." So who's ruling right now? All right, we're speaking specifically on the EU, the European Union, okay, which are the Edomite nations. All right, it says the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, whereas thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. Okay, I'm going to keep reading on. It says, and as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. Now, what is this going into? It's going into part of the EU, all right, being financially strong, all right, and the other ones are being weak, okay, financially, all right, and we're seeing that, all right, in current events and what's going on, all right, overseas as of right now, all right, you're seeing parts of the EU, all right, countries, all right, that are financially, all right, doing bad, and the other nations, all right, the other countries, all right, other of the EU don't want to lend them a helping hand. Okay. But verse 43, it says, "And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another." Like I was just saying, they're not assisting each other. All right. The nations that are financially strong, they're not lending a hand or trying to bail out, all right, the nations who are doing in a worse state financially, man, their economy. All right, it says, "Even as iron is not mixed with clay." All right, now I want to jump over and get a precept, man. All right, and this is this precept in Habakkuk 2. All right, is a prime example of why you have to go into the Hebrew, all right, and the Greek, all right, to get a proper understanding, man. Okay, so this is Hebrews chapter 2 and verse 6. Matter of fact, let me jump to the full chapter. All right, this is Hebrews chapter 2, and we'll start at verse 4. It says, "Behold, his soul, which is lifted up, is not upright in him, but the just shall live by faith. And whose soul lifted up is not right within him." Esau, Edom, man. Okay, all right, because what are we going? We're going into the EU, all right, the European Union, okay, which is coupled, all right, with NATO, which makes up this whole beast system, man. Okay, but we'll focus on the EU, okay, all right, for this lesson, all right, dealing with Daniel, the second chapter. All right. It says, verse 5, yeah, also because he transgressed by wine, he is a proud man. And what is that wine? His philosophies and doctrines, Christianity, democracy, all right, women's liberalism. I say butcher that word, but you get what I'm saying. All right. All right, but he's done what, man? He's got the whole world drunk off of his wine, man. Okay. It says he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is dealing with these devils, man. All right, they're everywhere in the earth, man. Okay, causing trouble, man. Okay, that's why we're at the point now. This place has to go down, man. All right, as the scriptures say, man, the kingdom is translated. All right, if it's established by ill-gotten gains, man. Okay. And that's all this devil has done. Now these European nations who have been ruling, all right, it's time for them to be taken out by Yahweh Shai soon. Okay, but even before that, they're gonna fall apart. They're gonna bid each other's necks. Okay, you're gonna have other Edomite nations that are doing better. All right, and with their economy, they're gonna boast. All right, and puff their chests out at the ones who have a weaker economy. Okay. All right, that shows you, man, this is the devil that we're dealing with, man. All right, they can't even get along amongst themselves. All right, it says, who enlargeth his desire as hell and is as death and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations and heapeth unto him all people. That's the UN, the United Nations. Okay, this devil has everybody under his vibration. That's why he's crippled the world, man. All right, through his corrupt banking system, man. Okay, and all the wickedness, all right, all right, everything that's attached to this beast system, man. Okay, he's gathered all the people unto him, man. All right, that whore that sitteth upon many waters. All right, but verse 6, this is getting to the point here. It says, shall not all these take up a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? How long? And to him that laded himself with thick clay. Okay. Now, if the English is good enough for you, all right, you can't get the proper understanding of the scripture when it goes into the thick clay. Okay. So let's do as we've been taught in Great Millstone from the apostles on down. All right. Let's get the Hebrew. All right, which the Hebrew, this is H for thick clay. This is H5671, which is Ibadyat. All right, it says wedge of pledges, heavy debts. Okay. All right, so that's what the scripture is going into. That thick clay is the heavy debts that this devil has accumulated, man. Okay, now it makes more sense. All right, when it goes into the part of the feet and toes. All right, being partly iron and partly miry clay. Okay, all right, one being weaker financially or with its economy. All right, and other nations of the EU being stronger. Okay, so what I want to do here, I want to go over. All right, this is chat GPT. All right, I want to read some of this, man. All right, going into the tensions amongst the EU. Okay. All right. It says the European Union faces multiple sources of tension and division, often stemming from economic, political, and social differences among its member states. Some of the key areas of division include economic equality and north-south divide. All right, it says wealthier northern countries, example, Germany, Netherlands, Sweden, tend to advocate for stricter fiscal policies, which southern nations, Greece, Italy, Spain, often push for more financial aid and debt relief. In 2008, financial crisis and the Eurozone debt crisis exposed deep fractures. Okay, so it's going in, all right, to the financial woes of part, all right, of the EU. Okay. It says, which countries like Greece and Italy feeling burdened by austerity measures imposed by northern creditors. All right. It says East-West divide. Eastern EU nations, Poland, Hungary, uh, have clashed with Western European countries, France and Germany, over issues like judicial independence, uh, uh, media freedom, and democratic backsliding. The EU has imposed sanctions and legal proceeding against Hungary and Poland for alleged violations of EU democratic values. Now, before I read on, let's jump back to Daniel 2. All right. This is Daniel 2 and 43 again. It says, and whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. All right. So it's letting you know there was going to be turmoil, or there was going to be opposition within the EU. Okay. So let's get back to this. All right, it says migration and border control. Southern European nations, Italy, Greece, often bear the brunt of migration waves, while wealthier northern countries, all right, so it's letting you know, all right, the northern countries are more wealthier, all right, than the southern countries. All right, it says sometimes resist taking in asylum seekers. Countries like Hungary and Poland have refused to comply with EU migrant distribution policies, arguing for stricter border controls. It makes sense that the ones that's doing better financially, they don't want a whole bunch of immigrants or people seeking asylum, all right, coming into their country, man. Okay. And they got things running the way they want it to run. All right. It says rise in populism and Euroscepticism. Right-wing populist movements in countries like France, National Rally, Italy, Brothers of Italy, and Netherlands, PVV, have challenged EU authority, advocating for national sovereignty over centralized EU governance, man. So what are they doing? They're trying to establish their own sovereignty, all right, away from the European Union. European Union. All right. It says Brexit, the UK's departure from the EU, demonstrated the strength of an anti-EU sentiment, raising fear of further exits in national policies. Okay. You know what? That's. I wanted to just hit that. All right. There's more to read, but I just wanted to go into that, man. And there's more that you can read on it. All right, going into the infightings amongst the EU. All right. You already have Brexit. All right, which was a separation from the EU, man. Okay. All right. So now, hey, this is why you have to go into the Hebrew and go into the Greek, because it brings light onto the scriptures, and it gives you a better or a more in-depth understanding of what the scriptures is talking about concerning major prophecies that we've inscribed in the Old Testament, man. Okay. So Lord willingness is edifying. All right, willingness is edifying. All right. Once again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Ruach. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who continue to rule well and guide us through the Spirit. All right. And double honors to their elder and high priest who taught them as well. Peace and blessings. Shalom to the Most High's hopeful elect across the four winds of the earth. Keep fighting, keep pushing.